We are Soccerphiles Canada. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Mexico, Part 2, the selection. Here we go! In Section 2, we move on to Section 3, which is a review. Except for people joining us for the short version here, basically we want to welcome you, and we are racing through a review of what we covered in sections 1 and 2 of the full version. So we're going back to the top of the list here, and we go to what we call our Spotlight Review. This is our race through the players that have made it to the squad and who we think are going to be starters. So we begin with manager Javier Aguirre. We'll consider him a selection for the final squad, who will lead them through the cup. Moving on to goalkeepers, we had definite candidate Luis Malagón making the squad, likely candidate Raul Rangel making the squad. We had 3 possible candidates, only one of them making the squad, and that was returning veteran Guillermo Ochoa. Is he going to be the starter? Will he step into that position? Well, he might, we're not sure, but we have not confident enough to name a definite starter, but we think Luis Malagón is the likely starter, and we're going to guess that Guillermo Ochoa is the first backup. We're not really going to get into that too much, but there we have it. For defenders, we go to central defenders. We had a definite, 2 definite candidates, Johan Vázquez and Cesar Montes. Both of them made it. Also, our likely candidate, Israel Reyes, made it to the final squad. And the first of our 3 possible candidates, Jesus Orozco, making it to the final squad. They didn't choose as many central defenders as we would have guessed. Possible candidate Ramon Juarez just making the preliminary squad there. And Victor Guzman not even making the preliminary squad. That may be because he plays for a team that plays in the Club World Cup. We're not sure how that fits in. Anyway, in terms of predicting starters, again here, because, well, for reasons we talked about in the mediacast section 2, we weren't confident enough to name a definite starter, but we think likely starters would be Johan Vázquez and Cesar Montes there. In the left back position, we had definite candidate Jesus Gallardo, who was selected for the final squad. We were a bit surprised that likely candidate Jesus Alberto Angulo was not selected for the final squad, just for the preliminary squad there. And that is just one player over on this side, and we think he'll be the definite starter, Jesus Gallardo. As a backup for him, perhaps one of the players that we'll look at on the right side. No, wait, I have to say there was a new candidate, someone who had never appeared before on the Mexican squad, Mateo Chavez. So he is selected for the final squad, and I guess he would be the most logical backup for Jesus Gallardo. Sorry, I forgot about that. Okay, on to the right backs. We had no definite candidates, but a likely candidate in central defender Israel Reyes, and 2 possible candidates actually who were in the position for a while, but not in the recent period so much, Jorge Sanchez and Julian Araujo. Nevertheless, both of them made the final squad there, and possible, yeah, we won't go beyond below that level. So definite starter or likely starter, we don't have confidence to say so. It's been a bit unsettled in this position, but possible starters, any one of those 3. Jorge Sanchez probably with the strongest chance, Julian Araujo, or I would even put Ismael Reyes stepping in ahead of Araujo there. But that is subject to the vagaries of the manager's decision. Let's go to defensive midfielders. We had a definite candidate in Luis Chavez, and he was selected for the final squad. Moving on to defensive midfielders, we had a definite candidate in Edson Alvarez, who was selected for the final squad. We had no candidates at the likely level, but possible candidate Eric Lira did make it to the final squad there. Well, we'll get to the starters shortly here. Let's go to the left midfield position. A surprise here, possible candidate Diego Lainez, only selected for the preliminary squad, but possible but unlikely candidate Angel Sepulveda, the one called up to the final squad. So that's a bit of a surprise. Right midfielders, we had no definite or likely candidates here either, but possible candidate Eric Sanchez. I thought he'd make it actually, but he didn't, only made the preliminary squad, and the other possible candidate, Rodrigo Huescas, not even making the preliminary squad there. And central midfielders, we have the biggest surprise of all, perhaps Luis Romo, who we had as a definite candidate, not selected for the final squad. He was on the preliminary squad there. The other definite candidate, Carlos Alberto Rodriguez, was selected for the final squad. Not much of a starter, Rodriguez, but we thought he was a definite candidate. We didn't have any likely or possible candidates there. We had 6 possible but unlikely candidates. None of them even made the preliminary squad, except for Marcel Ruiz, who made it to the final squad. So a bit of a surprise there. Now we go back and predict the starters. Generally 2 central midfielders for Mexico. And where am I here? Where am I? There we go. Definite starters. Again, not confident enough to say so. Edson Alvarez, though, is the closest. We have him as a likely starter. I'm almost definite on him. And of course, we would have had Luis Romo here, except he wasn't selected. So we put Luis Chavez as a likely starter here. So Edson Alvarez, Luis Chavez are 2 top candidates for starting. Up we go to the attacking end of the field. We have a versatile attacker here in Orbelin Pineda. He's been all over the attacking end of the field, even in central midfield actually, and he was selected for the final squad, but we're not sure where we're going to see him on the field. We go over to left attackers. We had a definite candidate in Cesar Huerta, who was selected for the final squad, as was both of our likely candidates, Julian Quinones and Alexis Vega, both of those selected for the final squad. However, possible candidate Irving Lozano just making the preliminary squad there. In terms of starters on the left side, we have likely starter Cesar Huerta. We weren't confident enough to name a definite starter here, so Cesar Huerta likely. Possible starters Alexis Vega, Julian Quinones, and we could pretty much throw Orbelin Pineda in all of these positions here, but I do envision him on the left there. On the right attacking side of the field, we had no definite candidate. We had likely candidate Roberto Alvarado, and he was selected for the final squad. Neither of our possible candidates made even the preliminary squad though, Uriel Antuna and Jordi Cortizo, but we did a possible but unlikely Osiel Herrera making the preliminary squad there. Starters on the right side, then no candidates we nominate for definite starter, but likely starter Robert Alvarado. Roberto Alvarado, that should be, as a likely starter. As a possible starter, maybe Orbelin Pineda or one of the left attackers that we just looked at, perhaps over on the right side here. Mexico did use a 4-2-3-1 formation in about half of their games over this period, so half the time they have a central attacker. We didn't have any definite or likely candidates in this position, but we had possible candidate Efrain Alvarez, who did make it to the final squad. We had 2 other possible candidates, Alexis Gutierrez, made it to the preliminary squad, but not the final squad. Marcelo Flores not even making it to the preliminary squad. But our possible but unlikely candidate, Sebastian Cordova, at least made the preliminary squad. In terms of starters over here, we're not bold enough to nominate a definite or likely starter if they use the position, but we are willing to guess possible starter Orbelin Pineda if they have a central attacking midfielder in their setup. On we go to forwards, and we have 2 definite candidates here, Raul Jimenez and Santiago Jimenez, and both of those made it to the final squad. We had no players at the likely level, but 2 possible candidates, Henry Martin and Guillermo Martinez, both of those making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. And here, finally, we give you a definite starter in Raul Jimenez, and a possible starter, or possibly starting alongside Raul Jimenez, we have Santiago Jimenez. All right, that is our Spotlight review. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.